Hi, everyone. Happy Friday. It is Venus Day. So, I love Fridays because it gives me an opportunity to connect with my divine feminine energy through that Venus element. And I thought I would come and talk to you guys today about how to leverage Venus energy to heal, right? By the way, this is your girl Shantae on the Earthly and Ethereal channel. I do want to remind y'all, if y'all have not subscribed, this is a good time to subscribe because this may actually become a conversation as far as connecting with this divine feminine energy on Fridays. We might have this conversation consistently on Fridays. So if you're interested, definitely subscribe for future videos. So why is it that I think that it's important to connect to Venus energy to heal? Is because I do feel that, especially as women who hold that prominent divine feminine energy, Venus tends to be a very soft but powerful energy element to connect to and to align and realign us to that divine feminine energy, which can sometimes living in, a system that tends to be leaning towards more masculine energy, it can sometimes get out of alignment. So I find that working with Venus energy just brings things back into a soft but balanced alignment when it comes to that divine feminine energy. Okay. And there are some really simple ways to work with Venus energy that doesn't have to be overdone or over ritualized. It can just like work with your normal schedule, your regular day. It doesn't have to feel like you're doing something excessive or grandiose, right? But another thing when it comes to Venus energy is that Venus focuses on two chakra points, which is the heart and the sacral chakra. So as it pertains to the heart chakra, Venus is really good if you're dealing with things that, pertain to any kind of heart blockages, grief, heartache, broken heart, disappointment, regret, anything that is keeping you from moving forward when it comes to heart related issues. If you feel, sorry, I'm covering the mic there. If you feel sometimes like you are dealing with, you know, the feeling of having heart blockage. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you actually feel the heart pain, the heartache, that's a sign that maybe you want to work with Venus energy to kind of overcome and heal that heartbreak, that heartache, that whatever it is. And we'll talk about some of the ways that you could do that. But also sacral chakra. Venus rules the sacral chakra in the sense that the sacral chakra is connected to our self-worth, is connected to, our creativity, our ability to feel grounded to a degree, right, in our own self-worth. So also a good element there to work with to heal and really foster a balance in the sacral chakra. Okay. And I do want to say, y'all, when it comes to Venus energy, just because it's an energy, like I said, that I am familiar with working with, it's very soft, it's tender, but it's powerful. And the key to me is to allow it to be something as it's just a simple part of your day and your routine, right? You don't have to be overly like, you know, it doesn't have to be overly detailed or grandiose. Just simplicity goes a long way when it comes to Venus energy. And so, yeah, let's jump right into it. I'm just going to kind of ramble off a few ways here, a few notes here that I have about how I personally, and I would encourage anyone to work with the beautiful energy of Venus. And the first way is just simply to connect with Venus energy, like on Venus Day, which is Friday. You may just connect with that through maybe, having a sense of gratitude for that divine feminine energy, just taking a moment to be intentional on that specific day for the areas that, Venus governs in your life or in general. You may decide to dedicate a post on social media to that Venus energy, highlighting the importance of that Venus energy. Also, you may decide to just, wear certain clothes or certain colors on Fridays to dedicate and to kind of bring the your intention to focus on Venus energy. Of course, you may work with colors like pink or green. Again, focusing on that Venus energy, even like maybe gold. And what colors you wear may be determined by what you're trying to accomplish. So you may want to determine what you're trying to accomplish when you're working with Venus energy. Are you trying to balance your feminine energy? Are you trying to tap into your creative energy? Are you trying to heal from grief? Are you trying to heal any scarcity concerns you may have, again, with that sacral chakra? So kind of determine what you're trying to heal, and that will help you determine how you want to connect with that Venus energy, right? Another way on Fridays that you may want to connect is through elements of Venus. So things like flowers, certain herbs that you may want to connect with, whether it's through ingesting certain herbs. Maybe you may want to make yourself a beautiful hibiscus tea, or, maybe, put some Damiana on a coal disc and just like burn it as an incense in your home, in your environment. These are things that are connected to Venus energy. And of course, flowers, I'm big on flowers, in case you guys didn't know that. I love bringing flowers, beautiful flowers, into my environment to heighten my connection with Venus energy. Not to mention that certain flowers hold just a really, really high vibration. So bringing them into your home, bringing them into your energy respectfully, it just helps to heighten that the vibration of your environment. Which, if you're dealing with things like grief or sadness, depression, that in itself becomes a healing process. A healing tool. So, of course, if you are looking to connect with that Venus energy, you may want to look at, flowers like the rose, maybe specifically the pink or the red, Another way that I love connecting with Venus energy is through goddess baths, y'all. A beautiful drawn bath that just pulls in all of that beautiful goddess energy. Working with, again, rose petals, maybe some honey, maybe some essential oils, and activating that element of smell and just feeling luxurious and feeling beautiful, and allowing Venus to just kind of be present in that luxurious, soft, delightful way. And, that kind of connection to Venus energy, I think, is good for if you're working with if you're working on matters of self-love, self-worth, and you're just trying to maybe affirm those specific things, a beautiful bath, like, hands down, just amazing. Especially if you're doing it, like, let's say right now we're in a Venus and Taurus energy, beautiful time to work in the sense of, like, maybe a beautiful bath, where Venus is just very strong right now. So that would really just be a beautiful way to connect. Of course, we can also connect with Venus in matters of womb healing. Venus holding that very prominent feminine element energy, it's beautiful to kind of tap into that if you are seeking any kind of womb healing, whether it's like physical healing. Maybe you have a physical ailment that is connected to your womb, or more spiritual. Maybe you're just trying to cleanse your womb of stagnant energy, so you may want to connect with that Venus energy. And ways that you can do that, I love connecting that way through teas. I will throw together a herbal tea in a minute, pull in some beautiful red raspberry, some powdered arco, which is really, really good, y'all, if you are having any things that dealing with that candida, you know what I'm saying, which is something that can be something that us women deal with when it comes to matters of, like, yeast infections, BV, but yeah. And of course, again, hibiscus. So just some herbs and natural teas, and so I tried to get fancy, y'all, and use my microphone. And I did like I was just talking, came back to edit, and no sound. So I am back to pick up where I left off and re-record this. So I was talking about, of course, this video is about how to leverage Venus energy to heal. And we were focused on womb healing, talking about different teas, but also when it comes to womb healing, again, looking at that sacral chakra, which, in case you didn't know, your sacral chakra is literally like about 2 inches above your navel. So it's really that space right there that's kind of connected to your womb, right? And something that is really good to do in general when it comes, excuse me, when it comes to Venus energy is dancing. But if you really want to pull in that sacral chakra, pull in that womb space, do a little belly dance. Do a little belly dance. And the reason I say that is because if you've ever belly danced, then you know that it takes a lot of, it gives a very hyper focus to that very space of your sacral chakra in your womb. If you've ever even done like breath work in that space, or even like, don't get offended when I say this word, if you've ever done Kegels, tying in that breath work with the Kegel exercises, what happens is that you literally start to stir energy. Stagnant energy gets stirred, and when that stagnated energy starts to get stirred in that space, you're clearing energy. So it may be a little uncomfortable, it may even hurt, it may feel like you are utilizing aspects of your womb that you have never really, or not never, but haven't really used, or pulsated in a sense in a while. So it's really good when you're working with when you're leveraging that Venus energy. Let's say you decide to do this, on a day that has a lot of prominent Venus energy, or you just really are focused on the Venus energy while doing this specifically for healing your womb. Whether it's healing your wound on a physical level, spiritual level, whether you are doing so for, maybe any physical ailments that you may be having as a woman, or even, a feeling of having to clear that space because maybe you're doing some cord cutting, you're clearing some physical energy, maybe from an old relationship, maybe even for the sake of feeling more empowered to be creative Because remember, as divine feminines, we really have a lot of creative power as it is tied to our womb space. So this is a good way to get the energy stirring in that area so that you can make use of that creative power more easily, be more powerful in that way. So yeah, really good to clear and to just energetically cleanse and heal the womb space with that Venus energy. And another thing that you can use Venus energy to leverage when it comes to healing is our healing matters of money. Venus, especially Venus in Taurus, is tied to money as an extension of how we value ourselves. And it's really abundantly available through that Venus connection to use that energy to cleanse and clear, our connection to money. Sometimes we may have, issues with money as it pertains to things like feeling of scarcity, maybe a feeling of unworthiness, undeserving, so using that Venus energy to cleanse some of that and to clear some of that, sometimes we may just feel like we don't deserve to be happy or to have the pleasures of life. I, not me, but just thinking how someone may think, holding on to money in a way that is out of fear and out of a sense of having scarcity mindset, so we hold on to money so much and we are so tight with our money that we don't allow the currency to flow. That currency got to flow, right? So we got to go out, got to come back in, got to go out, got to come back in. But if we have a scarcity mindset, or we have issues with maybe feeling worthy of the luxuries of life. Venus again ties to the luxuries of life, right? Feeling unworthy of that will cause a energetic blockage that needs to be cleared. And some ways that I find it's easy to kind of cleanse that and clear that when it comes to Venus energy is taking something like your pocketbook or your wallet and just cleaning it, clearing it, using something like maybe a piece of Palo Santos and cleansing, that wallet, right? Cleansing that pocketbook. Both wallets and your pocketbook, they're symbols. They're not just things that we carry things in. They hold a vibrational symbol, to your wealth and to your connection to your money. So be mindful of how you keep those symbols of your wealth, right? So cleanse it, clear it, and bring sweetness to it. Allow it to have a sense of like vibrating high. Your wallet is not going to vibrate high with like old receipts in it or old things you've purchased. You want to clear it and, cleanse it and put new things in it, keep new crisp bills, and, maybe even get like a gold, what do you call it? The gold $100 bills. Throw that in there with a little bit of, a little bit of money drawn oil. Okay, we're not gonna talk about that on here. But yes, definitely cleanse and keep your wallet, your purse charged, right? And just get comfortable with the pleasures of life. Get comfortable with the pleasures of life. Treat yourself. Don't always just be in like grind mode. Treat yourself. Be intentional. Like today, I'm going to take myself on a date and I'm going to do this, and just really plan it down to every detail and be intentional about exposing yourself to the pleasures, the fruits of life, and romanticize that. Romanticize even your relationship with money. Like, plan yourself, even if you don't have the financial support right now. Plan yourself a trip to a country that is just so far away, and so like just plan it. So that's a really good way to work with Venus energy and leverage Venus energy to heal, matters of money, how we see money. Another thing, y'all, is to just work with Venus transits. So when Venus, for instance, right now, like is in Taurus, do some intentional Venus work while Venus is in Taurus. Again, Venus in Taurus is very much tied to money, abundance, and, having a sense of connection to our possessions, and, understanding your own Venus, like connection, what your Venus sign is, how it's conditioned, how is your Venus sign maximize, and what will cause your Venus sign to work at its most, in its best positioning, based on the sign that it's in, the element that it's in, all those things, right? Just get to know your own Venus sign. Even, for instance, I like to take a few weeks out of the year and I will do a Venus reset, as I just recently did. And as a woman, as a lady, I find that this is important because it reminds me to stop, pause, and reconnect with my divine feminine, reconnect with my feminine energy. Sometimes we're always on the move, on the go, and just pushing through life, that sometimes we forget to just be still and connect and reset that energy. And it's important to do that, especially as women, because this is our powerhouse, right? Our feminine energy is our powerhouse. It's where we do everything from. So taking time out the year, whether you join my Venus reset or you just create your own when you feel called to, right? So those are just a few ways, y'all, that I wanted to talk about how to connect to your Venus energy, how to leverage Venus's energy to heal. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. I do want to tell you, I do want to make this a consistent conversation, a divine feminine conversation that we have every Friday. And next week, I want to stay on Venus because we're in Venus and Taurus. So I want to continue talking about this Venus energy while Venus is in Taurus. I think we got until like mid-July. But I want to talk about we're going to do a little Venus cheat sheet, right? Come back to this next video knowing what your Venus sign is. Are you a Venus Aries? Is your Venus in Taurus? Is your Venus in Scorpio? Is your Venus in Virgo? Is your Venus in Capricorn? Find out what your Venus sign is. And we're going to do a cheat sheet for how to maximize your Venus sign, right? In all areas that Venus governs over your life. How fun is that? All right. So see you guys next Friday. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. And as always, y'all, Divine Wellness, wishing you the best Venus Friday. Enjoy. Bye.